number one in the top 5 photographers of all time. So number one, I would like to describe this person to you, but I can't. Other than to say, to have the presence of mind to do this must have been something akin to a miraculous event. See, I'm lost for words, because what I'm talking about here is a photograph that's potentially 800 years old or so, and the person or persons responsible for taking it, I don't know. So I guess what I'm saying is the top 1 photographer in my all-time top 5 is a ghost. Let's get into that. So, for anybody that doesn't know, in 2020, when the world went crazy over a cold, I spent the time that summer finishing off an idea I'd had for a book off the back of writing an academic paper in 2018, looking at the theft or the obfuscation of photography. And by that I mean I believe that photography has been around forever, as long as people have been able to see. And I think I went some way to proving that in my book, The Obfuscation of Photography. And that was a couple of years of research, observation, doing test work myself, building cameras and devices to take pictures that are supposed to not work. So within that research, I came across a couple of researchers who had decided, building on somebody else's research, to look at whether the Shroud of Turin is in fact a photograph rather than a wrap. And I think they proved pretty soundly that it's entirely possible that the Shroud of Turin is a photograph. The thing we don't have is the names of the people who made the photograph, but they're my number 1 all-time favourite photographers, because 2 reasons. One, because I think it's about the oldest surviving photograph we've got and we can prove it's a photograph. But B, whoever they were and whyever they were, they had the cojones, the know-how to do it. And for that reason alone, they're my all-time favourite photographer stroke-ers, because having the balls then to take a photograph of whether it's Jesus Christ or just somebody called Jesus or just a person, using that rudimentary proto photography as it's called, is quite brilliant. And I used those techniques they were using and some of the equipment they were using. I used the same processes or similar process to make my own photographs, which worked, which need days and weeks and months sometimes of exposure to work. But when you think about it, when you've got a dead body that's laid there, you've certainly got an ample amount of time before the body decomposes to photograph it. And I think in this case, this is what happened, that the person was photographed for days, weeks, months using rudimentary photography, proto photography, to make an image. And that's what we see. And if you read the work by Picknett and Allen and the doctor, whose name escapes me, I'm going to put it on screen now because my memory's shot to shit, who first started considering that the shroud might be a photograph. If you look at their findings, their proofs, if you like, that it could be a photograph because they reproduced it using equipment available at the time. The only way they differ to me is they suggest it can't be of Jesus because the timings are wrong, carbon dating and all that. They believe, I think, that it's Leonardo da Vinci that made it, but it can't be of Christ or Jesus because the timing is wrong. In my book, I researched that a little bit wider and discussed the adding of 1,000 years of non-dark age that didn't exist, which fundamentally then aligns that it could have been somebody called Jesus from the time Jesus is supposed to have been alive. You'll have to read the book to get into detail. I don't want to go into detail here, but suffice to say, the Shroud of Turin, in my opinion, is definitely a photograph, and one of many that have been obfuscated from that time and more closer to our times. Talk at length in the book about Da Vinci and how his Sfumato process is actually a print process, and many pictures he's noted for painting are actually photographs, which were potentially then painted over to hide the fact they were photographs, or are still photographs. You just can't see the original for various reasons. If you look at this Sfumato process, it's a print process. That's not painting. So the fact that the Shroud of Turin is, in my view, the oldest surviving photograph that we're aware of. I mean, I say in the foreword to my book, the oldest surviving photograph is not The View from the Window at the Grass by Joseph Nice von Niepce from either 1826 or 27. And it's not even close to being the oldest photograph. That's why I'm saying that, because my research took me back at least 5,000 years when the ingredients and the camera obscura existed. And it's not much of a leap from painting what are clearly gods and godlike things on caves to photographing them. So my top one photographer or photographers of all time are the people or persons that photograph the Shroud of Turin, because quite simply, in my view, it's the oldest surviving photograph we can access. I'm pretty sure that the Vatican and other places have got probably older ones, which they'll never allow us to see, us mere mortals, but doesn't mean they don't exist. And I think the more people in photography that understand the obfuscation of it, the theft of it, the hiding of it across time, the more we look at other things like events that are told in history to have happened one way when really they potentially happened another. And you can understand why photography would be hidden, can't you? Because you think about all those, that 1,000 years, you think about, imagine having actual photography or photos from the Roman era, or from, let's say, the Dark Ages did exist from that era, or from anything up to the Napoleonic Wars, Civil Wars, conquistadors, all that stuff. Imagine having photographs of all that. What truths they may tell. So, in my opinion, through deep research, practice, and evaluation, I believe that the whole of the history of photography has been obfuscated, hidden, for nefarious reasons. But if you read the book, it's only a tenner on Amazon, you can have a look at why I think that and why I came to the conclusions I did. But within that, 100% I can tell you that the number one favourite photographer of mine of all time is the person or persons that photographed the Shroud of Turin, because in my highly educated view, it's the oldest surviving photograph we've got that we can access. So there you have it. The people who photographed the Shroud of Turin.